Welcome to the Spirit World, answering your questions on angels, demons, and how the spiritual and physical worlds interact. And now your hosts, Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Spirit World. I am Debbie Georgianni with co-host religious demonologist Adam Bly, and hopefully you today. We are a live call-in show. This is your show, The Spirit World, and we are tackling deliverance and healing ministries, retreats, and things you need to know on the Spirit World. But Adam, let's dive right in, and we always begin in prayer with the St. Michael prayer.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God cast into hell Satan, and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. I love that prayer. Okay, folks, here's how it works on the Spirit World. We are live. We are taking your calls today. Here is the number. Put it down on a piece of paper so you're ready to go if you have a question or comment about the topic we are going to discuss today. 877-757-9424. And we have Tim Mott at the controls. He's our producer. He's waving. Yes, and oh, that's right. We are on Facebook and YouTube live. Our videos are on. So go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to GRN Online YouTube page, go to the Facebook page, grow the family there, the Spirit World Podcast. We're waving to you. And it's so much fun to be on video with you guys. And you're going to hear a lot. And yes, we will discuss Adam's background to his video. We will discuss that sometime during this broadcast, but it's very important that we talk about the topic today, deliverance and healing ministries and retreats. It's that time of year where people are signing up for these things, and we really want to make sure you are fully aware of what to expect, how you should prepare yourself before you sign up for these retreats and events. Okay, why are we taking time, the Spirit World, Adam, to do this? Is because we have got emails, just stacking up, where people said they have attended some of these sessions or events or retreats, and they've walked away very, very confused, folks, very confused. And Adam and I are determined with solid catechesis and formation to set the record straight and to have you be fully prepared before you dive into anything spiritually. So, Adam, why don't you start? Let me just make sure I give kudos to our call screeners, Libby and Carol. They're going strong already. The phones are ringing. Look at this, 877-757-9424. So Carol and Libby are doing a great job on the phones. Tim at the controls, and Adam, take it away.
Okay, Deb, so let's start off with some real basics, and this equally is applicable in kind of the psychological world and any of the helping professions, really. And that is, as you prepare, meaning you're thinking about going, you're going to do your due diligence before you sign up for an event or go to the event, the first thing I think it's good to do is to take pen and paper or get your computer and write down your goals for participating in this event. Specifically, your goals need to be reasonable, concrete, and measurable. So you need to be able to say, my goal is to stop drinking, for instance. Is that reasonable? Well, maybe, maybe not. Is it concrete? Yes, it is. Is it measurable? Yes, because I could say I haven't had a drink in a month. That's the outcome that I'm looking for. Now, it might be a big leap if you're an alcoholic to say, I want to absolutely stop drinking by the end of this event. That would be an example of a big goal that is concrete and measurable. But let's take a smaller one. Maybe it is simply to forgive my sister over something that's been going on. Let's say it's not a huge deal. It is reasonable. You guys have worked things out before. It's concrete. It's something that can actually happen and it's measurable. We're talking again. So write down your goals, make them reasonable, concrete, and measurable. Compare your goals to what the event is offering or promising. So make sure, what you're going to go participate in is designed to address what you're looking for. a lot of people have very vague ideas about this, or just vague general ideas about wanting deliverance because life isn't going well, maybe, and they just generally want things to go better, or they want, whatever it is, whatever form of security that they're looking for. So I'd say compare those goals to what they're offering. Make sure, this is a very practical one, Deb, make sure it's doable to participate in this. I've seen some people, they've offered to move across the country to get to a different diocese because there's a particular person or program there that they think is the only person that can solve their problem. People even flying over the oceans to go visit a priest in Italy because they think that's the only person that can do it. Make sure it's not an undue burden on you and your family to spend this money and time. With those first three, Deb, do you have any feedback on those?
I want to circle back to the very beginning, just because we have new listeners each and every time we broadcast, and we are being heard across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. So it's going all over the world, Adam. Go back to a little bit of what the definition of healing and deliverance retreats and ministries. How would you, because just a healing mass can take place in our parishes all the time. You see them in the bulletins. So kind of give us the definition and what you're referring to.
Sure. So God, healing and deliverance, they're both very broad terms, and they can apply to many things in life that we need: physical healing, emotional healing, psychological healing, healing within our family systems. Deliverance is being freed of an outside problem that's kind of oppressing us. And it generally is talking about things that are spiritual in origin. So, I think I have this outside spiritual force that's been afflicting me, and I want to be delivered of that. You could also call, deliverance prayer, where you're praying against spirits that might be affecting a person, or maybe if you think there's a curse there, that type of thing. That's also a form of deliverance. In a sense, exorcism is also a form of deliverance. Think of deliverance as the big umbrella that captures being freed of any spiritual problem. Okay. A lot of people go to deliverance and healing situations either for physical healing, they've gone through all the medical stuff and they're turning to God and looking hopefully for a miracle. Spiritual healings, they may have difficulties in life and they say, maybe this is spiritual. I don't know, but things are going so badly, I want to be freed of this. So it can mean different things for different people. And on the very simple level, when we pray, it's almost always because we want some more security, or we want to be freed of problems. Hopefully our prayer life is broader than that we're just praising God, thanking God for being alive. But honestly, we usually turn to God when we want something, or we want to be freed of something.
Right.
So these are kind of events where people go to have somebody else do that work. So it's not just my prayer life, but I need this person. They're going to pray over me, or they're going to say these particular prayers. Sometimes it's done in the form of a healing mass, where there's a mass, and then after the mass, they will say certain prayers and go around and maybe apply relics to people, or holy water, or anoint them with oil. If they're particularly sick, maybe even the anointing of the sick, that type of thing. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it makes great sense. But here's the thing. I've heard of people who have had, and you talked about expectations. I've heard of people that have had alcohol addiction or drug addiction, and they've gone to some of these healing services, and they said, "Oh, I was miraculously healed, and I've turned my life around," and all these kinds of things. Isn't it possible that they were just ready to do that, and they also, and God obviously stepped in, and there was assistance with that? Then that's fantastic. But they were also probably in a place to maybe tackle the addiction. What do you say to that?
Yeah, Deb, I have seen it both ways. I had a case that I was working on for years, and in the course of praying for other clearly just spiritual issues, the person was spontaneously freed of alcoholism and drinking. We hadn't even prayed against that specifically. But I think God freed him of that because that was an impediment for them getting to the right place spiritually.
Right.
And then shortly after, over the months of praying, the person was spontaneously freed of smoking, where suddenly they had no interest in smoking. It was like a light switch went off, and they had no craving, no interest, just like with the alcohol. So I've seen it happen, but in that case, we hadn't actually prayed against it. we had prayed for healing in general. And then, yes, what you're saying is true. A lot of times, the placebo effect in medicine is when we have an expectation of a healing effect, and we know placebo effect is very real and it's huge, and it's used in medicine all the time. So there can be a strong effect of expectation that this prayer is going to make a change in me, and my mind can produce that. Honestly, it's usually not either or. It's usually everything. It's some God, it's some of my expectation, it's some of my own effort. But in the end, if there's healing, that's a great outcome.
Beautiful. Okay, so you have more to share with us about deliverance and healing ministries and what we need to know and be aware of, and the proper expectations. We do have the phone lines just lighting up. There is an open phone line just for you. There's one line left, so please grab it. 877-757-9424. That's the number to call. You hear that wonderful music. That is the Spirit World music. You can always email us. Tell us how much you love that music. tsw@grnonline.com. Don't forget to wave to us on Facebook or YouTube at the Spirit World Podcast or at GRN Online YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
Are you feeling lost in a sea of overwhelm? Hi, this is Coach Felicity with Stand Tall Today Coaching Minute. Many people find themselves challenged with overwhelm. Too many things to take care of, too many people to please, too much work to do. And in spite of their best efforts, they continue to fall behind with this overwhelm coming in like a flood. But that's not the abundant life that Jesus wants you to live. That's why Stand Tall Today has experienced professional coaches that will assist you in dialing down that overwhelm. They'll help you get a grasp on where you are and to create a plan that enables you to take bite-sized steps of action so you can live an abundant life. Why not take your first step right now? Go to standtalltoday.com and find a coach that is just right for you. Because life is simply too short to stay lost in a sea of overwhelm. This is Coach Felicity with your Stand Tall Today Coaching Minute.
Christianity rises or falls with Jesus. If Jesus is just a myth, then Christianity's false. It's that simple. So, is Jesus just a myth? The answer is no. Apart from the 4 Gospels in Paul's epistles, which skeptics unfairly reject, we have non-Christian sources that affirm Jesus existed. For example, the first century Jewish historian Josephus, in his work Antiquities of the Jews, names Jesus, describes him as a doer of startling deeds, and affirms his crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. Cornelius Tacitus, a Roman historian of the first century, in his work Annals, refers to a group of people called Christians and describes the founder of their name as, quote, Christus, who was put to death by Pontius Pilate, procurator of Judea in the reign of Tiberius, close quote. So, was Jesus a real historical person? You better believe it. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Bly. If you have a question for the show, call 877-757-9424 or email tsw@grnonline.com.
Okay, we are back here on the Spirit World. I'm Debbie Georgianni with Adam Bly, and hopefully you. So make your call now. Don't wait any longer. This hour goes very, very quickly. 877-757-9424. And I know you have more to share with us, Adam, about deliverance and healing ministries and retreats. We want to hear that, but I cannot make our streaming audience wait any longer. We do have folks watching on YouTube and Facebook. And hi, you guys. thank you for liking us at the Spirit World Podcast on Facebook or going to GRN Online YouTube page. By the way, we have videos there. Scroll down. We have videos on angels and insight and exorcism and near-death experiences, all sorts of wonderful videos just for you. So make sure you share them with your friends. But I can't have you wait any longer. So Adam, on the back of his screen behind him, he has for his background the Saint Michael, beautiful statue with Saint Michael with a very, very, looks like a very heavy pointed sword, and the sword is pointing right into Adam's head. So Adam, why don't you share with our streaming audience why you chose that as a background?
Well, number one, I wanted an image of Saint Michael because he's kind of the patron of our show and always has been. And he has helped me in my life a lot, helps us a lot in our ministry. And I wanted an image that was off to the side so that he could be there. They're usually centered. And I wanted one that was active. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He has the sword out, and he's actively doing warfare, in a sense, spiritual warfare, obviously. Nice. So, yes, unfortunately, it looks like he's poking me in the head with a sword, and that's okay because
he's
honestly, he keeps me in check.
That's right.
And if I mess up, I remember who I have to answer to.
That is true. That is true, folks. So you can let us know what you think of the St. Michael background at tsw@grnonline.com. Very interesting little bit of information there. So, Adam, a little bit more of what you want to share with us about deliverance and healing ministry, and then we'll get to the phones because Mary Beth, hold on, and Linda and Manuel and Cindy, hang on. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. So, a few things. Ask the question, is this ministry approved by the diocese? Is the diocese even aware of the event? Is the pastor of the parish it's happening in aware of the event and the ministry? Is this somebody coming in from another diocese doing an event that isn't under a parish? Maybe it's just at a hotel ballroom or something like that. If that's true, is the diocese and the pastor of the territory that contains that event aware that that's going on? Because there have been instances where people come in, do an event without even letting the diocese know. Now, why is all this important, Deb? And you and I both do this in our work because we have to. If we go and teach in another diocese, for myself, I regularly go and teach 4 bishops to train priests in other dioceses. Before that can be done, a letter of good standing has to go from our clergy office to their clergy office saying that, yes, I do work in the diocese, I'm in good standing, and I have competency in the area that I'm going there to teach in. So those kind of letters are a regular part of the church. And if somebody's saying that letter of kind of approval hasn't happened, understand that, that is the norm. The church always checks on these things. Okay, so you want to look into the event and make sure it's known to everybody and it's been approved. Okay. Now you got to ask the question, if my goals for going here are deliverance from something, have I covered the medical and psychological possibilities? A lot of people jump to the spiritual and they never look into the medical or the psychological. I understand, if you're having a strange experience and you have a Christian worldview, you immediately can interpret it as spiritual, but really it's critical to talk with your doctor and if you have a therapist, talk with your therapist and be open with them about what's going on. Because you can leave something untreated because you're pursuing the spiritual possibilities that then could progress and become worse. And we've talked about real examples of this in the past on the show. So that's important. Don't fail to do your due diligence about whether this is mundane. Okay. If this is possibly really genuine heavy oppression or possibly real possession, and I know a lot of people think they're possessed and they're not, but let's say, there's real indications of severe spiritual problems here and you have been working with your doctor, my advice would be that you need to work with somebody on an individual, personal basis, a team of people that have competency in this. This is, in those instances, that's not the time to do something online or do something in a group setting, because if you're in a group setting, it's likely there's going to be a manifestation that's going to be disruptive and scary to other people. And also you need particular focused help if that's the case. All right. Any thoughts on those, Deb? On the approvals and...
No, I couldn't agree more. I speak in full-time, I go around the country, speak at different conferences and events, and we've had to get a letter of good standing from the very beginning. And so I have it through the Diocese of Phoenix, and even at the parish level, I have it. So that's very important. And wouldn't you agree? It can't just be like somebody saying, well, I have a letter from another priest friend of mine, and, you know, I'm coming into this diocese. And and you've said this many times, Adam, and I think it's important that we say this again. In the work that you do on a weekly basis with the exorcism work that you do on a weekly basis, you've said it before that Jesus himself has made it very clear that he wants it to be respect for authority and obedience to authority. So when we go around the rules, it can be problematic with Jesus, right?
Sure, and it's not that, you know, I'm hearing from Jesus or any elocution or anything like that. What you're referring to, Deb, is when we're praying, we know that Jesus restrains the demons. He gives them the rules that they're bound by. And if somebody doesn't have proper authority from the church, permission to do this type of work, the demons know it, and they are not restricted by that person's commands. And it's Jesus who's enforcing that. So that's why we know that Jesus wants authority and structure, and he basically isn't going to back you up and provide that protection and that efficacy as a rule, unless you have that proper authority from the church. Okay. Go ahead.
Be obedient, be faithful, do it the right way. Absolutely. So just to recap and kind of bring it in small doses for our listeners and for myself. So have reasonable expectations, do your research, make sure it's approved by the diocese, make sure it's something that is legitimate in the healing and deliverance area. And don't just go and jump to that spiritual reasoning. Check with your doctors to see if there's a brain health issue or something else going on that, and have a comprehensive approach. I think that's very important in the coaching ministry that Jerry and I do through Stand Tall. We feel that all the time. Like people will immediately jump to what they think it is. And then when you peel back the layers, it's something vastly different. And you're like, did you even spend time understanding, what's going on in your life? Because this all added up to the problem that you're suffering today. So I think it's great. Want to get to the phones now?
Well, can I just wrap it up?
Yeah. Go right ahead.
Okay. So let's say you've done all your due diligence. You've gone through that whole process we just described. Now you're saying, okay, I think it's reasonable for me to go there. Before you go, get in a state of grace. And that means go to confession. Don't have any unconfessed mortal sin on you. All right. Pray in the days before the event to receive the grace to get what Jesus wants you to get out of the event. When you go, fully participate in a sincere way and trust in Jesus while you're doing it. All right. Really fall into that trust, look into the divine mercy, whatever it takes. Trust him and fully participate. Understand that it may be his will that you not get what you're looking for. It may not be your time to be healed of something. It may be that this thorn in your side is something that spurs you to spiritual growth, that, from God's perspective, it's something that's being allowed. And finally, going back to what we mentioned before, understand that you may need additional help. There could be other layers to this. It's not saying that it's only medical and only spiritual.
Right.
We pursue everything. So when somebody's going through exorcism work, they're receiving exorcisms, they're usually in therapy, and they might be being treated medically too. And we have conversations between everybody that's involved in those different dimensions of our humanity, of our personhood. So don't be shy about pursuing the other routes of healing while you're doing the spiritual. And that's all. Those are my thoughts, Deb. I don't know if you have anything in addition to that.
No, I think it was fabulous. You gave us a ton of information and things that we need to, because we're coming up on Lent, and next week we're going to be talking about Lenten practices and disciplines and being prepared for Lent. And these events are popping up all over the country, all over the world, folks. So it's very important we address it now. We're going to get ready for a very quick break. There you hear the music right on cue. Tim Mott is awesome. Tim, you are amazing as senior producer. Way to go. When we come back, And now I will promise that we will go to Mary Beth, who's been waiting the entire show, actually. She called in right at the beginning of the show from Long Island, New York. Mary Beth, hang on. Manuel, if you'd like to call back from San Antonio, there's an open line for you. Also, there's an open line for you, dear listener. So come on, let's go. Fill that last phone line, 877-757-9424. Don't forget Facebook and YouTube on GRN Online. We're waving to you guys. We'll be right back.
This is a Messy Family Minute with Mike and Alicia Hernan. How can you turn a simple daily routine, something ordinary that you do every day, into a tool to renew your marriage? Transform a routine into a ritual.
Rituals can build up and revive your marriage because it's a routine that has a positive emotional meaning that points to a deeper reality. Rituals can be little things like saying I love you each day before leaving, or longer, like a daily evening or morning walk together. One couple I know has a forgiveness ritual when they reconcile at the end of every day.
Some tips on rituals. Make it a habit so it's easy to maintain. Make it time limited so there's a recognizable beginning and end. And the last tip, tie it to something you already do, like brushing your teeth or getting ready for bed. Apathy and indifference can destroy marriages, but by maintaining rituals, it helps marriages weather the storms of life. So if your wife likes it when you bring her flowers, ritualize it.
For more tools for your relationship, visit us at messyfamilyminute.org.
When you find yourself peering into life's rearview mirror, wondering if your past will forever define you, it doesn't have to. Go to standtalltoday.com and register for your absolutely free consultation with one of our world-class life coaches. They can help you get started on a plan forward to living your best life. There's nothing to lose and an entire future to gain. Log on to standtalltoday.com for complete details. That's standtalltoday.com.
The Spirit World continues with Debbie Georgiani and Adam Bly. If you have a question for the show, call 877-757-9424 or email tsw@grnonline.com.
We're so glad you're with us on the Spirit World. There is room for you to call in. One line there. Oh, there might be another one because, Manuel, one more shout out to you in San Antonio if you'd like to call back. Here's the number, 877-757-9424. And Adam, I'm already getting comments coming in. Everybody seems to like your St. Michael statue. I do as well. Okay. I think it's wonderful. So we will keep it in the show format because our listeners we aim to please. So as promised, if it's okay with you, unless you have anything else to share, let's go to Mary Beth. She gets our, like a virtual award, Patience Award, Mary Beth from Long Island, New York, listening on the EWTN app. Hey, Mary Beth, welcome to the Spirit World.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go right ahead.
Great. So my question has to do with soul ties. First of all, what exactly are soul ties? Secondly, are all soul ties unholy? And third, how are they broken?
Okay, Mary Beth. So I've heard this term used by different people in different ways. It isn't I don't believe it is a scripturally defined term, and the way people use it varies. So basically, it's kind of a spiritual connection. The closest thing I've seen to a genuine version of this is when people are married or when they have sexual relations. That seems to create an ability for a spiritual problem in person A to be able to be transferred to person B. Or if person A is doing black magic or doing bad things to try to attack person B, the marriage provides kind of a bridge over which the spiritual effects are more likely to impact them, and also sexual activity seems to provide a similar bridge, though maybe not as strong. So I've heard soul ties being used in other ways, in references to perhaps curses or perhaps just a distant relative, that type of thing. Now, with the relatives, if you're an adult, you don't have to worry so much about your ancestors in terms of your parents, grandparents, etc. Once you're an adult and of the age of reason, your spiritual state is between you and Jesus. If you marry, you give a certain authority to your spouse over you, and so there's a certain connection there. Now, if you think there's a soul tie that is bad, let's say we've had many people say, well, they had sexual relations with somebody, it turns out were involved in black magic, and the relationship went sour, and now they think they're cursing them or doing things to them. In my experience, it's very simple, and that is to go to confession, confess the sins, ask Jesus, ask the priest to say a basic deliverance prayer, to ask God to break any connections that were spiritually made to that person. So does that make sense, Mary Beth?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other aspect of soul ties you were curious about?
No, that's it. You pretty much covered it all. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure thing.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Call us anytime. You can always email us at tsw@grnonline.com. Mary Beth waited 30 minutes to get on air with us, so I'm so grateful that she did, and your answer was amazing. So thank you so much, Adam. Adam, we are getting additional comments. Everybody definitely wants you to keep the St. Michael statue. Okay, guys, we heard you. We're going to keep it. We like it. Tim and I have decided that it's growing on us. We love St. Michael. Don't get me wrong. We love it. And he is our, patron for this wonderful show. And we pray the St. Michael prayer before every show. It's just that he's stabbing you right in your ear, so
maybe he's inspiring my mind.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. There you go. I like the way you think, Adam. Okay, we're going to try to get to everyone's calls today. Okay. We're determined. So let's go to Linda next. And Linda is in Sharonville, Ohio on Sacred Heart Radio. Linda, welcome to the Spirit World.
Oh, thank you so very much.
Thank you for waiting. Go right ahead. Ask your question or comment.
So I was at church last week where the gospel was Jesus cast out the demon from the man in the synagogue, because he recognized who Jesus was. And the priest went to such extent to tell the parish there's no such thing as demonic possession. Basically, in the Bible, people were stressed out, stress turned to mental illness, and that Jesus or his disciples basically never cast out demons. So after church, I had a talk to him, and I approached him kindly, and I said, Father, are you saying there's not demonic possession? And he yelled at me. He said, I didn't say that. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. He said, I'm saying Jesus never cast out demons. And I said, Father, you're in error. And he started yelling at me. He said, I read thousands of books and there's no such thing. He said, I'm not going to argue with you. And I said, Father, I said, I hope he forgives me. I said, you're not a good priest to talk to me like this. Jesus wouldn't. And he kind of laughed and he was yelling at me saying, just there's no such thing. Jesus never cast out. And I said, you don't know Jesus. And then he said to me that he knew Jesus better than me, which probably a lot of people do. But Adam, I'm so upset because I don't have to tell you, you have to know the enemy you're battling. And nobody cares. I tried to reach up to the highest level of the church, and they didn't care. So, Adam, are we seeing this in the Catholic Church?
Yeah, Linda. So, first, of course, I'm really sorry that happened. That sounds like a really bad experience. So, to be clear, if we're going to take the position that demons don't exist and possession isn't real, you really have to reject the Bible. You have to reject the magisterium of the church that maintains that this is the truth of the church. You have to reject the catechism that says that it's real. You have to reject the popes, of which all of the recent popes, and of course previous in history too, but certainly the recent ones, have said every diocese should have an exorcist because this is real. Pope Francis talks about the devil regularly. There's headlines from him usually at least once a month related to that. this is a teaching of the church, and it's a reality of the church that the church has addressed through the solemn rite of exorcism that was updated in 1999. So instead of saying this was a medieval thing from the 1600s that we no longer do, in fact, the church updated the ritual and promulgated a new one in 1999 that went through some revisions. So this simply is not the case to say that within the church, we don't believe this. Now, an individual priest may say that, but yes, you're correct. They are in error. I don't mean to be uncharitable, but honestly, that is a blatant error because it contradicts the catechism. And so if somebody's contradicting the catechism, by definition, that's an error. I don't know. What do you think, Deb?
Well, I'm quite disturbed at the way he treated you, Linda. Let me just get a couple things clear. You didn't obviously have like an argument with him in front of other parishioners and humiliated him in any way. It sounds like it was somewhat private, and you were just saying, Father, can I just address this with you? Am I correct?
Yes, and how could I not speak up for sweet Jesus? What kind of person would I be if I didn't take up? Because I'll have to tell you, the demons are out there, and people are so scared in the times, and they need to know the enemy they're fighting.
Well, there's a lot of false ideas about things being floated right now, Linda. That's why, like Adam said, you have to stick with the church's teaching and what we've always believed. And if you're going to go down that slippery slope that this particular clergy member did, you're pretty much disregarding and rejecting everything we believe in. So, I mean, it really is a terrible thing to start to go down. However, what I would say as just to help this priest, because clearly you need, it sounds like you care about him and you'd like to help him. Here's a couple suggestions I would, if you're open to it, may I make? Are you open to it, Linda? It sounds like you tried a couple things, but let's try it again. What do you say?
Okay, I don't know if he wants to, because he was yelling at me like he didn't want to talk to me. He walked away, but I would do it. I
understand. Okay, so what I would do is in a very kind, the most, the kindest way and most gentle way you can do it, I would send a letter. I would also sign your name, because the diocese will not address, most of them will not address comments coming in from parishioners if the name is not attached, because they don't feel if they can't put their name on it, they're not going to really spend the time to address it. Okay. I would put your name on it, and I would just say to his bishop in the diocese that you're in, and I would just say, listen, I start off with, I love this priest. He's wonderful. He's our pastor. This is what happened. This is, put all the details. I wasn't trying to argue with him, ruin his day, make him yell at me, or any of the above. I was just trying to state the truth of our faith. I think I would say this to the bishop in a wonderful, kind way. I think you may have an issue if he is floating these ideas, because you're going to confuse parishioners. You're going to mess their understanding up of what the church teaches, and that's a problem. And the bishop needs to know that clearly. And then I would add, Linda, I would do this. I would say, and I do not appreciate our shepherds and our priests yelling at a parishioner. That is, in the time and day we live in, that, and the way the church is having so many problems and division, that is not appropriate. It's not appropriate, Linda. And honestly, he may have been having a bad day, and I feel for him, or maybe he just doesn't understand things, and I feel for him, but he should not be yelling at parishioners. What do you say to that, Linda?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I have been praying for him, and I thank both of you for bringing me some peace, because it has upset me, because I'm thinking what's going on. So, and I never approach a priest. I never do. I'm not that type, but I thought that was a grave sin against sweet Jesus. But I thank you for both of your time. I appreciate you brought me a lot of peace.
Good. Keep us posted. We're going to pray that this gets fixed in a way that he has a better understanding, and he can be clear about our church teaching, Linda. So thanks for trusting us with your comment, and I'm sorry you had to go through that experience. Okay, we're going to go to let's go to who's help me out, Tim. Who's next? Lou. Okay, we're going to Lou. See, our senior producer is right on top of things. We have like almost full phone lines. Lou from Queens, New York, listening on Sirius XM 130. Take it away, Lou.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. The previous caller gave me something to think about. I mean, they all do, obviously, but this one about the exorcisms. You know, I've studied the Bible and I read the Old Testament, and I can't think of a single instance where there was an exorcism mentioned in the Old Testament. Can you help me out with this and point one out to me?
Yeah, so so there was the one where Saint Raphael was invoked to deal with a particular demon that was afflicting, it was killing the suitors of a woman. Was that the Book of Tobit? I think it was, Deb. I think it was the Book of Tobit.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, where there's a woman who is afflicted by a particular demon that every man that tried to marry her would quickly die. And it turned out that there was this spirit that was jealous of the woman and killing the men. It's not super clear if she was possessed or if it was just nearby and hurting people. But the archangel Raphael was invoked and defeated that spirit. That's one example. And so the book of Job is not an example of possession, but it's an example of extreme oppression.
Right.
It's a statement about if the devil is given permission, can produce physical ailments that are very concrete and real, wounds on the body, that type of thing. So there's that material, Lou. The other thing, it's not strictly Old Testament, but to understand that at the time of Jesus, going back to the synagogue at Capernaum story that was referenced by the previous caller, the idea of exorcisms was not new when Jesus did it. It was not a big deal and wasn't causing a lot of drama that Jesus had done an exorcism in the synagogue at Capernaum. In fact, the Jews, it was a well-known ministry. There was groups of rabbis that would go around and for a fee would do exorcisms. Probably some were done for free also, but it was a ministry that was going on and well known. It was that when Jesus did it, he didn't invoke the name of Solomon or Elijah or some other holy figure, or he didn't read from the Old Testament. He simply said, "Get out." And that's what caused the reaction in the people, not that he had done an exorcism. So in the Jewish mind of the time of the New Testament, which points back to the Old Testament, in their history, exorcism was well known. So I don't know if some of those help, Lou.
No, it does. It does. I thought about the two examples you gave, but you're right. The way it's presented in the New Testament, obviously, it's miraculous because all he did was say, "Get out." And who had the authority to say that but only God?
Right.
And that's what, right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the analysis.
Oh, sure thing, Lou.
It's an eye-opener, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, that the disciples, when they went out and to perform exorcisms, they appeared to be like astounded that they were able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was part of what Jesus gave to his church explicitly. He gave authority over the demons to his church, and that was a different situation. It was a paradigm shift. So before Jesus, one would invoke holy figures that presumably were with God in the bosom of Abraham. But Jesus explicitly gave authority to his church. But remember, he said, don't be happy that you have such authority over demons now, but be happy that your names are written in heaven, which goes back to what Deb so helpfully always brings us back to, is our goal is to get to heaven, right? That's all in the end we're going to care about. We're not going to care about any of this other stuff. Yeah, we have to deal with it while we're alive here on earth, but ultimately always bring your mind back to, how do I get to heaven?
Amen to that. Lou, you're awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate the call today. Call us again, please, sir. Okay? Thank you, Lou. Okay, we're going to, before we go back to the phones, let me just address this because this came in from YouTube. Adam, if you want to wave to Timoteo, he sent in a wonderful question here, very important about our topic today. What about deliverance rites done online in a live stream broadcast, for example? Is this proper? Adam, this is why we did this broadcast.
Yeah, so, It's complicated. I think it's potentially problematic to be, really careful about this. Again, when you're working with somebody in this area, if there is a spirit that turns out is possessing the person, and that spirit gets agitated by the prayers and then takes over the body of the person for a period of time, well, if you're not working in person with a team there, you could cause a manifestation like that, and you're over the internet, and the person manifests and then walks away from the camera, and you probably don't even know what city they're in because they just logged in under a name in Facebook or something else. You don't necessarily even know where they are or have a way to call 911 in the town that they're in and get some help for them. So I think it can be a little bit risky that way. Secondly, deliverance prayer is essentially, Jesus, please help this person. If you do, so that's a petition to God. If you do a direct command, something like in the name of Jesus, leave this person, get out, that's an exorcistic type of prayer because it's a command. It's not saying that you're using the exorcism right, but it's an exorcistic type of prayer. Generally, I think it's wiser to do those types of prayers in person because you're taking those out of, when the church does those types of prayers, generally there's other things involved, like the priest wearing a purple stole and being able to put that on the head of the person, presenting a crucifix to the person, using holy water is very common. There's often more to the ministry when you're getting into exorcistic type prayers than just the prayers. So I think priestly prayer often does involve, contact or touch, perhaps to the head, that kind of thing during the prayer. I think it's potentially problematic to do this online.
Tim, that was a great couple questions. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. That's why we did this topic, because we found that there were more online services like that being provided. There's more questions coming in on YouTube. If we don't get to you guys, I know you guys are watching us, and we're so grateful. We're going to have to pick up the pace because we have folks waiting online to get on air with us. And let's go to Cindy in Wyoming, Sirius XM 130. Cindy, welcome to the Spirit World.
Good morning, you two. Thank you for your ministry. I so look forward to this every Saturday morning. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. We love you back. Go right ahead.
Yes. So, Adam, I would like to ask you, I have a puzzling, perplexing question. I have a Native American daughter-in-law, and we've just got a grandson. And so I know Native American spirituality is different from Christianity. But anyway, so my question is regarding amulets, because my daughter-in-law was given from her great-aunt, like this, when the baby was born, to have the umbilical cord saved and put into like this beaded artwork thing, and this thing would bring the baby prosperity and survival and health and strength, these type of, I don't know if you call them virtues or attributes to the child when it grows up, but I was concerned because we are practicing Catholics, and I thought, what is this? Is this like a rabbit's foot? And I was curious, so I thought, I'd like your input on this, Adam.
Yeah, so, not bashing any other religious system, not bashing Native American belief systems. And of course, they vary, by the way, of course, depending on the tribe that you're talking about. So, not all Native Americans are the same. But from a Christian perspective, that would be seen, I think, Deb, would be seen as superstition. And that means putting trust in an object that is not related to God, right? So we don't want to put absolute trust in an object even related to God, like to say, well, this crucifix is the thing that's going to save me. Well, that's putting your faith only in that physical object versus it's the crucifixion of Christ, his action in dying on the cross that is saving me. Understanding that kind of is a sign that points back to the spiritual reality of what Jesus did. When we put our faith in something that is unrelated to Christ, unrelated to Christianity, you're making an idol out of it, right? So it's in a roundabout way, and perhaps in a very direct way, depending on where your mind is at. When you're doing this, how you're thinking, you're violating the first commandment. because you're not putting God first. You're putting an object and putting trust in an object as opposed to in God.
So what can Cindy do? Because this is her daughter-in-law.
Right. So this has got to be, a charitable, gentle discussion in the family. Ultimately, as the child grows up, they're going to make their own choices. But, if this is your daughter-in-law's baby, she does have rights and authority as the mother, but if she's marrying into the family, that's just got to be a discussion that you're going to have, and maybe you can reach something that will make both of you happy. But I would explain the fact that from a Christian perspective, it's incompatible, it's superstition. From our perspective, from her perspective, she may say, well, from my perspective, it's a good thing, and in my faith, it's a fine thing. Right. And you're going to have to come to some compromise where everybody basically can work that out. And I can't tell you what that compromise would be, but, if you're feeling strongly about it, have a discussion, explain why you're feeling strongly about it. And if she feels strongly about it, I don't know, Deb, in a sense, having somebody mediate or help
like
you.
Go to a priest, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cindy, does that help for now? But you know what? You just gave me an idea. We're going to make a note of it, and we'll address this in a whole entire broadcast. Okay?
Perfect. Oh, no, it's great. It's great. That's great wisdom, because in my thoughts when you're talking, my daughter-in-law she's very close to wanting to become Catholic with us and continue her lifelong journey being a Catholic. And so I think she looks at this as somewhat whimsical also. Mm-hmm. And she's also, because she really doesn't know either, because she's generations down already from the true, Native Americans here. And so if that makes sense. And so she...
Well, yeah, Cindy, Cindy, she wants to be true to her culture and respectful to her culture, and that's understandable, and I think that's really wonderful. But she's being drawn into the Catholic Church, which is fantastic. So I say let her go deeper, have more of an understanding, and the more she understands and comes to that place of knowing, she will shed some of these other things that maybe came in through her childhood. But Cindy, I didn't mean to step on your call right there. It's only because our producer is giving us signals that we're getting ready to close the show. So Cindy, we thank you for the kind words. We will definitely put it on the calendar for a future broadcast. Thank you so much, Cindy. On YouTube, we're getting questions about exorcists that are saying that Satan is being personally split in three to mock the Holy Trinity. Anything you know about that? It was supposedly revealed during an exorcism.
Well, Deb, in general, you have to be very careful about anything revealed during an exorcism, because we know by definition the devil lies, right? Jesus tells us that very clearly. When he speaks, he lies. It's his native tongue. And so we don't want to rely on the devil's testimony outside of the few things that the church enforces, which is what's your name, how did you enter, and when are you leaving? Outside of those, we can't rely on anything that he says.
Okay. I'm going to get a quick comment from you from Albert's situation. Albert, we're not going to be able to bring you on air with us, but if you can listen, let me ask the question real quickly of Adam. Adam just moved into a place, a house or an apartment, and you talked about spiritual authority. He's okay. They're paying the mortgage, but don't own the house. Can they have the house blessed? Yes or no?
Yeah, they can, because they're living there, so they have a shared authority. They have shared rights over the house.
Okay. Albert, does that work real quickly?
That is good. I was just confused because my father actually owns it, but I'm living there, and I'm paying the mortgage, so I just didn't know if I could do it or if
you can, yes.
Yes, you can, Albert. Yep, go right ahead. Have it blessed. I always recommend get things blessed. Linda and Marie and the others, we're not going to get to you today, but we have an open forum show coming up in a couple weeks. Okay, you hear that wonderful music. We're waving to all the YouTube and Facebook groups. Thank you. Please like us on Facebook at the Spirit World Podcast. Also, you can go to GRN Online on the YouTube channel. Check out all the other videos we have there. Adam, thank you so much. You are a great co-host. We want to thank our show team, senior producer Tim Mott, and also wonderful that Libby and Carol did such a fine job. So for Adam Bly, I'm Debbie Georgiani. Until next Saturday, have a beautiful and blessed week. We'll see you real soon.